Hey VC, back from internet's obscurity comes Isaac from the Blind Island, here to bring you the beginning of my top 10 lists of the year. I'm going to be presenting my top 10 favorite albums of 2022 in this list, and in my next list I'll be presenting my top 10 favorite used vinyl finds of 2022. And I just want to say that it's good to be back. It's been good to just step away, not really be a part of YouTube, not really be a part of kind of this feeling like I needed to churn things out, needed to buy new things just to talk about new things, and it kind of started to lose its luster. I'm glad to be back, glad to be talking about some music, and yeah, just gonna go through this top 10. There's no real order. I have to say 2022 was a much stronger year for music, for me anyway. Didn't have as hard of a time finding a top 10. In fact, it was much harder for me to kind of figure out what should all be included. I had to weed away a few options, and I will include my number one album of the year. That will be the only one that's like at the top of the list. Everything else kind of, you know, evens out in the wash. So let's get started. Starting off this list, we have Kind and Kinky Zoo, Swamp. This is a release from a French funk group. It was released on Funk Night Records, not the first time that you'll be seeing Funk Night Records on this list. This is just a really great amalgamation of kind of that CTI slick funk with hip-hop elements. If you're a fan of kind of the Hubert Laws meets Grant Green CTI releases, plus a little bit of a hip-hop edge, this is going to be a really great album for you to take a look at. Again, released this year, a just really good record. I'll include a little snippet to give you a taste of what this sounds like. Hopefully YouTube doesn't copyright strike me. Next, I have Julian Lage, View with a Room. This is a phenomenal record. I think of Pat Metheny at its heights. Julian Lage is joined with Bill Frisell here. Just some really nice, beautiful lines. His hard bop tones are the best guitar tones in the industry right now, in my personal opinion. This is one of my favorite contemporary jazz albums to come out in a long time. But then again, Squint, his 2021 release, was also one of my favorite albums of the year, so it's no shock that View with a Room would also be here. And then next, I almost showed my number one album of the year. I guess I should be watching out what I'm doing. Another release from Funk Night Records. This is Misha Pampalov, The Sea Will Outlive Us All. This is a really nice ambient album. Misha Pampalov is one of those guys that just releases so much music in a year. He is extremely prolific. He is extremely talented. Anything from psychedelia, ambient, jazz, folk rock. This guy can do it all, and also Afrobeat. He's an amazing musician, and this is definitely one for fans of Brian Eno, kind of like Another Green Life. I would just really highly recommend that you give this one a listen. I really enjoyed this album. It brought a lot of peace to me during the time that it was released, and I would just really recommend it for anyone who's looking for a nice, relaxing, smooth listen. Next, by far my favorite neo-soul record that was released this year. This is Monophonics' Sage Motel. This is my favorite Monophonics record that has been released. This is a cohesive concept album. It kind of is a song cycle that goes through the various rooms of the Sage Motel, and Kelly Finnegan's voice on here is just transcendent. He's never sounded better. In my opinion, the songs all completely blend and bleed into one another. I've heard that be a complaint by some. They're dumb because this to me is what it's all about. This is what a perfect album song cycle looks like. I highly recommend that you give this a look. This was on the Jungle Swirl, and really, really good record. If you haven't listened to the Monophonics, I highly suggest that you check them out and start with Sage Motel. Now, this is one that's not going to be setting the world on fire with being different type of music, but this is my favorite of 2022, and it's not about necessarily being revelatory. It's about being enjoyable. And this is the Suffragettes, Roller Fink. This is just really, really good surf rock music. And all-female quartet. They are just, they play some really great surf music with a nice 70s edge to it. They have a really great cover of Heart of Glass by Blondie on here. And if you are looking to kind of get into the contemporary surf rock realm, and I'm a huge surf fan, check these gals out. They're really, really great. Definitely one of my favorite albums of the year. And I really got into library music this year, and this really reminded me a lot of that. This is Diasonics, Origin of Forms. Just a beautiful, funky library-style release. And it's extremely dreamy, and you know, I'm trying to think of some other adjectives, but I also don't want to come across as completely pretentious, like saying there's some really sticky licks and groovy lines that are played here. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say this is really, really good. This is really entertaining, and if you're looking to kind of get into the library style of music, but you know, that history is so difficult to kind of dive into, check out Diasonics as a good starting point and then move into library music. Also, this is a shock that this one got on the radar. My wife and I, we went to go see a concert of the Monophonics. We saw Kendra Morris and we saw Monophonics, and then this group was here. And these guys just bumped off Kendra Morris's 9 Lives, which was also going to be included in this top 10, but a couple of others just kind of squeaked in a little bit stronger. And these guys just blew me away with how talented they are. GA20 Crackdown. This is a wonderful blues trio album. Very, very just rockin', electric, and raw. Definitely a great album to check on out. GA20 Crackdown. They came out with an album that was a covers of Hound Dog Taylor. I thought it was okay, but then I saw them live, and seeing them live really did transform the way that I listened to their music. 2 guitar players and a drummer. No bassist involved in this. If you're a fan of early Black Keys, I would highly recommend you check this out, because they make early Black Keys look like a bunch of little whiny babies. They're extremely powerful, so really, really good stuff. Next is an album by an artist that I kind of written off. I enjoyed his early material, but he had kind of gotten a little pretentious up his own butt a little bit, but I think that this is a really, really great album, and this is Father John Misty, Chloe, and the Next 20th Century. I love this record. It has a big, lush backing band, large string swirling, big brass. It has that old Hollywood sound to it. Now, some people have not enjoyed this record, calling it kind of a Neil Diamond-esque foray. But what's wrong with some Neil Diamond? Neil Diamond has a lot of really great songs, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with kind of looking to the past to inform the future. And I think that's exactly what this album is. It's a lot of songwriting where his heart is just laid out on his sleeve. He's not trying to solve the world's problems necessarily. He's looking more inward. He's looking more at the interactions of people and places and times. And it's just a really, really great album. If you have been turned off by maybe some people saying it's just too old-timey sounding, or it's just not quite, it's kind of an archaic record, I would highly recommend give it a listen, give it a shot, as it is definitely one of my favorite albums of the year. And then this one is a late entry. I actually heard this one just this month, or not this month, November. It's amazing how fast time goes. And this is an incredible record. One that really reflects my faith, really reflects just the contemplative, disciplined nature that I've been wanting to seek after in my own personal life. And this is called Joel Ross, The Parable of the Poet, released on Blue Note. Beautiful record, absolutely beautiful. And it is definitely a wonderful spiritual jazz record. You just don't hear a lot of albums that are coming out a lot like this today. Kamasi Washington is coming out with some records like this. Emmanuel Wilkins, who also plays saxophone on here, is coming out with some spiritualized stuff, but usually it's in the vein of we're all one, we're all together, we're all a part of the universe. This is a very personal spiritual jazz record. This is an exploration of his own belief in Jesus Christ and his own belief in presenting yourself before the Lord, and how one should do that, and how one should go about. It's almost like a sermon through jazz. And it apparently is not selling very well. It's on a couple of year-end lists of best jazz albums, but it is so personal that I could see some people being turned off by that. The liner notes are written by his father, who is a pastor, so that might turn some people off. But to me, as a fellow Christian, as a person who believes deeply in the message that this album is about, it's my favorite album of the year. Beautiful, and also vibraphone. I love the vibraphone. I think it is a beautiful instrument and not nearly utilized enough. So, my #1 album of the year, Joel Ross, The Parable of the Poet. So guys, those were my top 10 releases of 2022. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And just thank you so much for giving me the time and the space to do what I need to do. And I really do wish you all the very best. And we'll see you in the next video.